So this happened late last night. I'm from Texas, the Gulf Coast to be specific, and I drove out to the beach side last night to enjoy the wind from Hurricane Delta. Before I was about to drive back home, I noticed these two neighborhoods separated by a main road that were the polar opposite of each other. One was very poor and one very rich. Now, I have a weird obsession with architecture and houses, and often drive through interesting looking neighborhoods to check out the houses in my free time, so I thought I'd check these two neighborhoods out. Somehow, as soon as I started driving through them, I lose my memory and sense of direction and just start circling around with no aim. I wasn't drunk or under the influence of any drug, so I have no idea why this was happening. And every time I'd get lost, I just kept coming back around this huge church or cathedral. This happened about 3 or 4 times with one of the neighborhoods, so I thought maybe it's just a weird thing that my brain was doing, where it's remembering what street I drove through last time, and because I'm lost, it's automatically making me drive through the same street and making me come back to the same spot. So, if I change the neighborhood, it'll stop doing it. So, I went over to the other neighborhood and started driving through, and lo and behold, I lost my sense of direction and started circling around until I ended up at the same church again, and again, and yet again. I think I counted a total of 6 times it happened before I got freaked out and frustrated and just went back home. Oh, and to make things even freakier, the winds had messed up the lights around the church, and they were flickering like those out of horror movies. It was probably the weirdest thing that I'd ever experienced in my life. I don't really know what this was, or what the hell happened. I was in a rural part of northern Mexico, on a ranch when I was around 15. The ranchers would always let me drive around the huge expanse of property on a 4-wheeler for fun, if I was done with all my work. I was on one of these trips driving around, when I saw a band of around 5 people out by a pond. It wasn't the ranchers, because I had just seen them at the ranch house. They were all dressed improperly too. No shirts. Their hair was black like the local Mexicans, but it was in strange styles that the locals would never wear. They didn't really acknowledge my presence despite the loud 4-wheeler. They walked parallel to my path, away from the pond, and then they just disappeared. I don't mean like faded away or ascended into heaven. No, they just vanished. Like over the course of a trillionth of a second. I didn't even blink and they were gone. I brought it up to the ranchers, but they didn't really take it seriously or feed into discussion. They had forgotten about it the next day. While I don't and have never brought into UFOs, cryptids, and ghosts, and I still don't really, but something about this seems like a time slip, a small, short instability of time. That doesn't seem so strange. Were these guys Native Americans that were here long before us? Last year, me and a friend were sharing a college apartment with 2 more girls who used to be our friends. One of them grew to hate us over time, for no apparent reason. She would lash out at us and never come out of her bedroom unless absolutely necessary. As the days passed, my friend and I started to feel watched while in the apartment, especially at night. We slept in different rooms, but we would both feel as if there was an entity in the corner of our rooms watching us. We didn't know it was happening to each other until months after it started. I've always been sensitive to energies and entities, and I could see a darker person-shaped spot in the corner where I felt like the entity was. I would always say a prayer, and that would never fail to ease the feeling of being watched. After more time passed, the feeling became stronger, and I would get the same feeling of being watched whenever I looked at a reflective surface, and it kept getting worse every day. Eventually, I would sense a primal fear whenever I looked at any reflective surface at home, and my friend and I started sleeping in the same room, alternating between her room and mine each day. The worst day came when I was alone. I was having dinner in front of the TV while watching videos on my phone. I looked up at the TV and I saw a figure in the reflection. I'm not sure what I saw. After this happened, I would see figures in the corner of whatever reflective surface I looked at while I was at home. I decided to have the apartment blessed, which made things better, but the feelings returned eventually. Keep in mind that only my friend and I were having this experience. Our other two roommates didn't notice anything wrong the entire time. My friend and I moved to a different apartment, and ever since, we haven't had a single experience that comes even close to the sense of dread and fear that we had in that apartment. What could this have been? Should we have been more afraid? I figured this might be the place to post this. It's been almost 10 years, and I still have no idea what this was. I was working in North Carolina for a nationwide door-to-door sales company. Our office was in Lenore, and I lived just north of Hickory, so my commute was country highways and back roads mostly. One night, in the fall, I was headed home around 11 p.m., riding my motorcycle as I always did, and I noticed what I thought was my shadow alongside of me. It stayed in the same spot parallel to me for a few miles. I kept glancing over at it as something wasn't right, until it dawned on me. The moon was on the wrong side for it to be my shadow. It looked as big as me in a dual sport, but more feline shaped. I turned off a side road to head home, and didn't see it anymore that night. The next night, about the same time, riding home through the same wooded stretch of highway, I saw the same shadow. This time, no moon as the sky is overcast. I was thinking that this wasn't normal and I sped up. It kept pace with me. When I get to my turn, I make the right-hand turn and watch it cross the highway with me. It looked solid black. I would say it was built more like a large breed bull than feline, but the size of a lion or tiger. I noped the hell out of that area and got home faster than usual, and never saw it again. I asked around to coworkers and customers about any local tribal legends or stories, but no one had heard anything like it. Any ideas? This was early autumn, just east of Lenore, North Carolina, which is northeast of Asheville, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I've seen unexplainable things before and since, but this one just had an uneasy feeling about it. Thanks for listening. Hi folks, some quick background. All my life, I've had nightmares about being abducted by aliens, demons, or entities, though I've never experienced an actual encounter. I've been noticing strange people watching me wherever I go, with reflective eyes like a cat's. I made a post about this on Reddit, though the mods of our Paranormal deleted it. This is important later. A day or two later, I had a horrible nightmare about the strangers attacking me in my bed, and woke up in a different room, freezing cold. Yesterday, I encountered one of the strangers outside my work, who knocked me down and told me that I belong to them. I made a post about it in our Paranormal, but again, the mods deleted it. They told me I should call the police, so I did, and filled out a police report and everything. I can give more information about that if you need it, though they haven't found the guy who attacked me. Last night is where the story continues, and it gets awful. It was another nightmare, like the one a few days ago, but worse. Again, I woke up and couldn't move. I've had sleep paralysis several times in my life, so I knew what it was, and it doesn't scare me, but this time, For whatever reason, I was absolutely terrified. Like, I could barely breathe, and I could feel my heart racing, and I was sweating. That's when they came into my room. Like the first time, it was just some shadowy forms with reflective eyes who stood around our bed, looking at me without saying anything. They didn't say anything for a very long time. They just watched me, and I could feel how much they hated me. It got harder and harder to breathe, and I started to pray silently that God would protect me. That's when one of them spoke and said,
"Stop that. No one can help you."
I didn't know what to do. I just looked at the figure and tried to gasp for air, and it was like I couldn't close my eyes, no matter how hard I tried. The figure said,
"You're going to be sorry. You shouldn't have fought back."
Then, like the first time, everything got really bright, and I had to squeeze my eyes shut, and it got so cold that it hurt. And then, when the light and cold stopped, I opened my eyes, and I was in my backyard, naked and freezing, and covered with scratches, like a bunch of cats had attacked me. Several days ago, Redditors suggested I buy a camera to see if I was sleepwalking, so I got a nanny cam and set it up in my bedroom. It's been working fine for 2 days, but last night, it just shut off at 3:33 a.m. My wife sleeps in the bed beside me and doesn't remember a thing. I called the police again, and I'm currently at the station waiting to talk to a detective. But I don't think these people are human. Why are they doing this? I don't use drugs, drink much, or have any mental disorders. Edit. I think I know what's happening now. A year ago, I was up for a promotion at work, and my wife admitted today that she found some website with magical rituals, and she used one that called some spirit named Boone that is supposed to grant wealth. We're on our way to see our pastor. I'll keep you all posted.